Hey everybody, Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we are talking with Jesse Maxwell. How are you doing today?
What's up, Tom? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm here, still working.
Hell yeah.
Okay, well, so for those who are new to you and your music, do you want to give a little intro about you and kind of what you bring to the table?
Yeah, so my name is Jesse Maxwell. I'm 27 years old, alternative R&B slash soul artist in Toronto. And I am releasing a new album that is definitely feels like a switch of direction a little bit for me. When I started releasing music, I came out with my first album, Radio Silence, and it was I've always, I feel, have some sort of like an alternative edge. And that first album to me had in a way a bit more of like an upbeat, more of like I don't know how to describe it exactly. But this new album very much feels like a more ambient shift, a little bit of a darker shift. I feel like I'm taking my time a bit more, which is cool. I feel like more developed as an artist as these things go. I feel right now I've been doing this for 3 to 4 years. So you evolve with it.
Mm-hmm. Now, how did you get into music early life? Like, what were your inspirations to start jumping into stuff like this?
Well, I started studying classical music when I was young, like 6 or 7 years old. And my family and like cousins and aunts and everyone seems to be, instrumentally inclined in some way or another. So it just felt like the right calling. And I studied it and I was really into it. And I did what in Canada we have like our Royal Conservatory. So I did all of that. And then I would, do coffee houses in high school, and I did some music theater when I was younger, and stopped for a bit. I was teaching music, and I was cooking in restaurants. That was like my thing. And then I moved to New York. I started fronting a blues band while I was there, and the leader of that band, Marlon Hurd, who's the lyricist, was very much like a mentor to me, and I was really inspired by his process. So I started writing music then. It was about 2018, maybe a little bit before that. And I just kind of started composing and writing and singing and recording and all that stuff, and just dove right into it.
Awesome. So one of the things I noticed when I was doing some research on you, you've been touted as a prolific musician. How does that moniker feel for you being called that after a few years?
It probably true for sure. I used to create a lot for myself. I still create a lot, but now I work with a lot of other artists, so it's a different type of creation. But I over the years have written a lot of material. I guess it's normal, as a lot of people do, when they dive right into things and you're trying to experiment and find your own sound. Like anything, songwriting is a craft. So just like practicing and writing things that are shit, and just to get it, keep the wheels greasy and all that stuff, and just stay connected to that part of yourself was really important for me. So in the first year, I think I created like 50 full songs. And then started like honing that in. I'm like, okay, what if this is good and usable, and started finding my sound and things that I like to do and create.
Mm-hmm. And so you talked about the first album and then the transition to the second one. What was the idea behind your evolution in a sense, from going from the first sound to the second sound? Did you have like a plan you wanted to put in place, or just try something new?
I think it was more the latter, just trying something new. I think I feel like I create in mindsets, and so like I had a completed thought, and that was the first album. And I wanted to like evolve from that. I'm like, where else could I go from here? And like, what types of sounds and feelings could I evoke that's not what I've already done? Like, a big thing for me has always been not replicating two of the same sounding things. Because if someone wants it, they can go listen to the other one. So, and if I want to hear it, I can go listen or play the other one. So being really challenging myself to like go outside of my boundaries and see what and where my mind could go was basically it.
I mean, it definitely works. I listened to some of the tracks beforehand, and you can hear an evolution. You can hear the difference, and it shows that you really tried to do something a little bit extra with it.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's things too, like learning to take my time, I think was a fear. And I'm not sure if other people or other artists experience this, but like I was always, I always shied away from things that were like quieter or like took up more space, that were more ambient, because I felt that people would get bored. And I think that was definitely a fear when I started creating, and it was all about keeping people engaged at all times. Um, and now it was different, there is moments and nuances to everything still, but it's just about like living in those silences or like in that space, and building an atmosphere, you know and realizing that it's like it's not about that. Like if someone is here listening, they're here for the experience. And so I as a listener, that's what I wanted to hear in my own music. I feel like that changed. Even I feel like my voice changed a lot. I was much more of like a belter, high energy before, and like now I've kind of changed into like more of a crooner and like airy vocals. And so it just felt right, and really just letting go of that fear that like people are going to get bored or whatever. Just like do and create how it was very stream of consciousness, like no limitations on that.
And so you started with your music kind of like, I guess, a little bit before COVID. How was your work process during COVID? And like, did you take the time? Well, obviously you did take the time to experiment a little bit on different things, but did you, a lot of people struggled. Did you struggle at all with trying to work through COVID?
Creatively, no, I don't think so. But probably promotion wise, yeah, without even realizing it. It's all I know as my come up, like, and how I started. So like as it ended and I would start going to more events, and people be like, how long have you been creating music? I'm like, since COVID. And they're like, oh wow, you've missed out on all these things I didn't even realize. So that was really, for me, the more of the wake up call. But creatively, everything just kept flowing, and a lot of my music is introspective, and like that was certainly not a problem to like have time to get into that headspace, because we had more than enough.
hmm And a lot of your stuff, you have some pretty dynamic visuals for some of your tracks, and your music your lyrics alone seem to tell a lot. Like, are these stories mostly that you've drawn from yourself, or is it kind of around the world, your perspective, what you're seeing? What is your general thought on the music you're outputting now?
I've always written from somewhat of a true headspace or experience. There's definitely moments on this album that are like pretty true nosedive. For me is all about like my addiction and recovery. Laid out not necessarily in like a heavy way, but more of just like a moment. So that for me is very true. And there's songs like Middle Yellow on the album was written like very freely and like, not consciously limited. And like it like very abstractly goes into this thought process I was having, like comparing the conscious mind to the unconscious mind. And it's just like, these random things that I think realizing that I didn't need to like tell the full story, but I could just like give a snippet of a piece of myself was cool. So yeah, everything I would say on the album is true in one form or the other. Whether it was just like a feeling or an experience.
It's nice to have a story behind the music too. So knowing that these come from more personal experience kind of set it home a little bit more, I think, anyways.
Yeah, totally.
hmm
And finding liberty too to also, be free and be creative in that. Because a thought can just be a thought, but I can really like explain the hell out of it, and build this whole story around this one thing. It's kind
Is
of the fun
there
of it.
Yeah, is there a track on here that you're super excited for people's reactions to? And then I guess, and vice versa, is there one that was really hard to finalize and kind of get that piece out that you're like, oh, I just don't know about this one?
Yeah. I'm really excited for people to hear Middle Yellow. Um, I think it's just a really beautiful track, and I made it like with two people who are very close to me, Andreas Salzatze and Samasa Marava. And that I'm just really excited for people to experience that. It just feels nice to listen to, I think. And then another one I'm really excited about is Six, which is the first song on the album, because it also is going to be coming with a music video. And it's like such a different direction than I've personally ever done. So I think that's cool. I'm really excited for people to hear that. And then something that came, like, really took a long time to get together was Enemy. It's very like simple, and it's not even simple, it's like sparse. And that one really plays with the space. And I don't know, there was something about it. Sometimes when you create, it takes like 3 or 4 different homes to just land on something. But this one took quite a few, and I was never really satisfied with it up until the very end. And I was actually about to cut it. Because, you know, with these things, you like show people and you show industry people, you take meetings and like, you know, see what the vibe is. And Enemy was like, some said yes, some said no. So it's really up to me to just figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like something that goes back and forth that much, if I was still working to like get it there, I feel like there was something there. So it got there eventually. And I do love it for sure, but it took a minute. It really, these things like really drive you crazy, especially like as a producer too. Like you're stuck on like one little sound for months, let's say, you know, it's like you never move past it because it just like irks you and you don't know how to get past it or like what to replace it with. And you can just go in circles forever. So a bunch of the process too was just like letting go. And like we actually on this album used someone else to mix it, which was an interesting experience. We didn't do that with the last EP, and that really like helped. If you work with other people like that, there's a limit of like when you have to stop creating and you have to give someone the stems, and then like that's it, it's out of your hands. So yeah, that's what I would say. Enemy took forever.
I mean, creatives I find in general have that process of like, you're never happy with something sometimes, and you're always trying to do something. Like I'm a photographer and like a graphic designer type of thing. So when I'm trying to draw something, sometimes I can't finish it. Like I don't know what's wrong with it. It just doesn't fit. And I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible.
Right.
I've done that so many times.
It just over and over again. And you know what? A lot of times that is helped by the collaboration, I find, you know, being able to work with other people and like getting outer perspective, because if you're creating something you're stuck in forever, like there's no perspective in that. So someone sees it with fresh eyes and they're like, that's what needs to change. They're like, wow, didn't even think of that.
Yeah,
It's been
exactly.
3 months. Yeah. Yeah.
I've had a few drawings I've just literally ripped off my book and sat them somewhere else and just left them and said nope.
Yeah. Wait for the second pair of eyes. That's it.
So because you're fairly fresh, I guess, in a sense, to the music scene of only having really dealt with the COVID stuff, what would you say does it take to actually be kind of noticed now? Because there's an oversaturation of narrative. Everybody has to try something different, and singles are everywhere.
Oh, no.
What's going on?
Okay, wait, I think that's better.
Yeah, there we go.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah.
Good old tune.
I think it got so choppy. I was like, there's no way I can pretend like I'm hearing this. So no.
It's still a little choppy on my side.
Oh yeah?
I think we're coming back now. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, so did you catch any of what I was saying at all, or
not a thing?
Because you're newer and you've only really dealt with the COVID scene, what would you say it takes to stand out in music now with the oversaturation of just everyone trying new things and getting music out there?
I think it just takes being able to take risks and like really standing by them. You know, it's just the nature of it that there's always going to be a lot of things that sound like similar to each other. But if you're bold enough to make the choice to be different, and I think that really means really staying true to your vision and like making those choices to just do it. It'd really stand out. You know, there's artists that I've come across with, and I'm really drawn to like weird production, but it's like when you get things that are experimental and very much their own, they're not trying to be anything else. I find that's the best result. You know, so just the authenticity of that will really shine through. I think people will connect with that, you know.
And I mean that should hold true to a lot of people, I would think too, because if you're putting your feeling into something, someone's going to be able to connect with that and move it forward in a sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's like not an easy thing to do, you know, so I get that. I think a lot of people get that, like being that bold and taking steps like that is it's risky because that's not what people are doing. What people are doing to be successful nowadays are like sticking with trends, you know, and like I feel like we're very much in a world of trends, especially with you know, platforms like TikTok, and jumping on things. You know, it is what it is. And even as an artist, I've been told to market that type of way, but I don't know. You know, I feel like if I'm doing this, I have to be authentic. Otherwise I just don't like it, you know? And it's just not enjoyable. I like to make things that are just like what I want to make. And you know, I hope people like it, and that's always a bonus. But I can't rely on that. Otherwise, I don't think I'll ever really be happy or successful.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, your music's definitely out there. Like I heard some of your stuff before this interview even came across my desk. So it's definitely, people are liking it for sure.
Cool. Hell yeah.
So I do have a fun batch of questions I like to ask everybody, and it's standard on the last bit of my interviews, just to get a little bit more insight to who you are.
Okay, sweet. Let's do it.
So first one, what's something on your go-to playlist that some people wouldn't expect you're listening to right now?
I love Arca. I've been like very obsessed with Arca lately. I don't know if you know who that is.
I've heard of, but not actually listened much.
They're just absolutely incredible. They've done a lot of work for other artists, but their solo stuff is just like weird and dense and dark and glitchy, and it's cool.
Nice.
And I don't think especially with the type of music that I create, I don't think people would expect that probably. But underrated for sure. They're very underrated.
I always love to hear new recommendations, so I'll definitely make sure to check them out for sure.
Yeah, Arca and specifically Kick One for anyone
Kick
watching.
One? Okay, I'll write that down myself
Great.
too. So
great, yeah.
Go. Okay, next one I have is what's a piece of advice that you were given when you were starting out that you held on to tightly throughout your career so far? Like one standout piece.
I would say, yeah, that's a good question. I've gotten lots of advice. It's something that like really has stuck with me and is just like important to me, but it's hard to do, is wait to work with people who are really your cheerleaders, you know, because that is, I jumped at things because I was excited and probably in a like slightly desperate to like move myself to the next level. And that's not always the right thing to do. I think I was told this by my mentor, and it just always stuck with me. It's just like work with people who are really your cheerleaders, because they're gonna do things with you and for you, you know. And like I'd rather, you know, whether it's like a manager or a label or someone, it's like if they're really behind what you're doing, that's gonna get you the best result, because they're just gonna like work with you, you know, and they just trust the vision. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's always stuck with me.
Okay. This one it seems to elicit the most thought out of everyone, so that you'll have fun with this one.
Hell yeah.
What's one thing that you think should be asked more in interviews that's not asked enough?
Whoa. What's one thing that's asked more in interviews?
Something that you might want to hear, like when you're listening to someone being interviewed.
I think that's an interesting question. I don't know. I guess people have probably asked this, but whoa, good question, Tom. Okay, I'm gonna say we can edit this part out of me thinking it. I would say, what do you hope people get out of this experience? Yeah, I think a lot of it's hard to say, you know. I think a part of the world is really focused on the music, and I think a part of the world is really focused on how it's packaged. So you know, more emphasis on the actual art of it, and like the details of that I think are cool. But again, it's not even something that like is that transcribable, I think, for most people, because like for me, like I produce, so there's a lot of like jargon and mindset that I'm going to like go into music creation with that the average listener, I don't know, really maybe cares about, but will connect to because they just won't get it, you know? And they're here for like the finished package. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that's a great question though. Yeah.
Yeah, see, it makes you think every time.
Wow. Yeah, for
And in all
sure.
honesty, that helps me too. When like I'm no pro at interviews by any means. I like to make it more casual, like I said, but it helps me pick out new things to potentially add later on for interviews.
That's cool. That's
Hmm.
very cool. And what would you say? I'd be interested actually to hear like what you would think the answer of yours is for that question.
So for me, because I'm not a musician, listening to something about musicians, I like to know myself. I like to know a lot of the process of how they put it together. So that's kind of why I peppered some of those questions in early, because I'm curious how you came up with something and how you came up with putting a track together that means so much to people in so many different ways. I don't know if I could do something like that. So it interests me when
Hmm.
you could do that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. A bunch about the process like that. Like how like I like how you asked like which took the longest, you know what I mean? Because that is things that a lot of people don't think about. Like again, you get an album, you're like, this album's great or whatever. I don't connect with it, but it's like how long, like how crazy did this one song drive you to create? You know?
Mhm.
You just don't think about it always. So it's cool.
And because you're more on the producer side of things too, like you have a lot of that knowledge, you have a whole different mindset in the way that you're thinking about putting some of these together too. Whereas a musician who's just coming on to sing a track knows that, hey, we gotta nail out these couple runs of this and then I'm done, and someone else has to handle it later. So it's really interesting to me to hear that side of things.
Yeah, it's definitely like a bird's eye view for sure.
Hmm. Which is, it's fun too. So that's good questions for everyone to hear sometimes.
Absolutely.
Now, my one of my writers loves this question, and I don't throw it out there that often, but I like to have fun with it. Do you think a hot dog is a sandwich?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what's your reasoning behind it?
Here's I just the qualifications of a sandwich. I believe there's two layers of bread that sandwich meat. I feel like if you really broke down what a sandwich means, that's what it is. People might have other opinions, but yeah, a hot dog is a sandwich to me
Okay. I
for
mean, he'll
sure.
like to hear your thoughts on that for sure.
Do you guys agree with that?
I mean, I personally do. I think it's a sandwich because if you look at like a sub sandwich or something like that, it's the same idea. It's a bun that's cut open,
Right.
a hero, whatever. There's lots of options, but like you said, the prime components are bread, meat, bread, or something of
Right.
that sort.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I back it for sure. I back
All
it.
right. So my final one for you. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but this one is kind of the most important, I think. Why do you keep pursuing music? Like, what motivates you to keep going?
Um, you know what? Some days it's a lot harder than others. I really enjoy making music, and I think it's something that I've found in my life that like is important to me. I feel that I'm good at, and that I keep trying to learn and always get better. And it's like it just feels like my element. So that's why I keep pursuing it, and it's something that makes me happy. And like a lot of it's hard to find things in life that make you happy that like you can actually sustain yourself on. So that's the reason I enjoy creating. I enjoy playing shows. I enjoy filming music videos. I enjoy being around creative people, and being able to express myself. And some days, it's a lot easier and I'm on top of the world. And some days I have no idea what I'm doing. And that's kind of the fun of it and keeps it interesting, I guess.
Yeah, I certainly can feel that. Like I'm creative on another pathway, and I have those ups and downs all the time. But I love when I can put something together that someone goes wow and takes a moment to look at a little bit longer.
Yeah, totally. You know what? It's nice for all creatives, like when it's things like that where they're like tangible, whether it's like visual or audio, whatever. It's like you can put something together and it's yours, and you've created it, and like that will last longer than I will. So I think that's cool. I think that's really cool to like be able to create something and then it's yours, and you just like keep doing that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great way we can leave off for today. And is there any kind of final tidbits of wisdom or things you want to tell to fans new and old that might be watching this?
I hope if you're watching this, you go listen and enjoy, hopefully, anything that I've created. Go onto my Spotify or Apple Music or any of the streaming platforms, search Jesse Maxwell. Just kind of get lost in the music, and I hope that you connect with something of it. We're playing a show on November 4th for the album. So if you're in Toronto, come out. It's at Bar Cathedral.
I'll see if I can send one of my photographers out to
Amazing.
catch the show.
Amazing.
But yeah, I had a great time chatting with you. Definitely awesome getting to know you a little bit better and hearing more about your journey through music. And I definitely think we can have another chat at some point for sure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate it. This is great.
And like I said, I'll see if I can get a photographer. I have some teammates in Toronto and around the area, so I can probably get someone out to come cover the show and take some awesome pictures.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom.
Awesome, man. You have yourself a good rest of your day. I think I got to go take this dog out because he just poked his head in again.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll connect again for sure.
Absolutely. By the way, where are you guys based out of?
So I'm based in Ottawa. I have teammates across Canada. So wherever you might be doing a show, there's a potential that I have someone out there.
Oh, beauty. Love
Yeah.
that. All right, cool, Tom. Have a great day.
One.
Thank you.